Yes, welcome back. We've got Mr. Adebayo Shittu here with us, a senior advocate of Nigeria, former
senior advocate.
Okay, sorry,
senior lawyer,
former Attorney General, Commissioner for Justice, very senior lawyer for decades, as a matter of fact, and also a lot of people will remember this one, former Minister of Communications.
Thank you.
And you've also been in the House of Reps.
House of Assembly, 7983.
Been everywhere. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Well. At the moment, this call for protest appears to be growing. And so for you, is it understandable that people are calling for protest?
Well, it is understandable that people, sincere people, people who are altruistic, will be concerned about the socio-economic situation in the country. But what is the reality? What is the aim? What is the ambition? What is the prospect of it?
Prospect of the protest?
Yeah, prospect of, what do you anticipate from the kind of protest people are looking at? A few years ago, we had the NSAS protest. The aim was, it was directed against the police. The police headquarters is in Abuja. Nobody protested in Abuja. It was in Lagos. And the target was private property. Destroying...
There were protests in Abuja. Huh? There were protests in Abuja.
Do you compare it with what, happened in Lagos?
Well,
we have to...
but
when you, even in real-time war, after all the killing, you still have to go to the round table.
Okay.
And discuss and negotiate and so on.
In fact, let's play this for you so you can listen to this. It's part of what you had said some time ago. Let's listen to this.
We are all going through hard times, including me. I always admit, because I don't work for government, I don't earn anything. I'm as common as any other Nigerian. And we go through this, going through the same market and all of that. But I have learned to be patient, because in reconstructing any edifice, you need time, you need patience, you need organizational ability and all of that. And I want to believe that in another 2-3 months, Nigeria would be better than it is today.
So what makes you say so? Because you've looked at cost of goods, Okay, well, I guess that Nigerians are not smiling, notwithstanding right now, because the economic challenges everybody's facing, which you say that...
it's regrettable, there's no doubt about it.
You said they should wait for how long?
I am saying that people
2 months.
in government...
You said 2 months.
People in government know that they have a duty to make Nigerians smile. And as we are speaking, we are, it's a means of sensitizing...
Mr. Shittu, you said in 2 months things will get better. We will call you back in 2 months.
I could be available. And I pray...
Is it because you know that it will not be?
Why would it not be?
Why would it not be available in 2 months? You said here.
Available.
You will be available. Okay, fantastic.
I don't run away from fights, even though I don't start fights, but I don't run away from any fight.
Well, you said 2 months, things will be better. So,
by the grace of God,
we hope to get back to you, God willing. Everybody will be alive at that time. Mr. Adebayo Shittu is the former Minister of Communications and former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. So, do you think they're better now?
Well, things are improving, I believe, and I want to assure you that the Nigerian project is work in progress.
But 2 months ago, exactly.
Let me say this. We must look at what led us to the stage we are in today in Nigeria. It didn't start with the Tinubu administration.
Okay, but is that you admitting that the stats are worse than 2 months? They've gone further south.
Certainly.
The statistics have gone further south.
Government has not been, for instance, today, before now, we never had NEL fund. Students' loan, a scheme. Today we have a number of projects which are capable of bringing about employment are already in place. Look at the magnitude, for instance, of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, which will bring in a lot of jobs. We look at the prospect of the Calabar.
We're talking about the cost of living.
It is.
And it's not any better today. Exactly 2 months after you came.
Now, I don't have the statistics. I'm sure you don't also have the statistics.
Price of commodities, bread. May 7, 2024, 1,400 naira. July 24, 2024, 2,000 naira. Between 2,000 and 2,500
What caused
naira.
that? What caused that?
Tomatoes per basket. May 7, 2024, 16,000 naira. July 2024, July 24, 20,000 naira per basket. Gari per 50 kilogram bag. May 7, 24,000 naira. July 24, 30,000 naira. Pepper. May 7, 15,000 naira. July 24, 18,000.
So what has government done to create these increases? Because you see, the Nigerian situation and Nigerians, we're very complex people in the sense that a lot of these things.
Are you blaming Nigerians now?
Of course, it's not. Is it government which has brought about the increases in the cost of rice, in the cost of tomatoes and all of that? We are all guilty one way or the other. We all contribute to it. Nigeria is one place where we stand here, we see policemen leading a thief by the road away, and those of us saying a thief ole ole ole, you find us in a position to steal, and we are doing exactly the same thing as the person we are calling only. And that's part of the Nigerian factor. When you say Nigerian factor, a lot of people don't understand what Nigerian factor is. It is us as Nigerians who, more often than not, do not have moral rectitude. We take advantage of every situation. So, I mean, are you saying the government would deliberately want to see Nigerians suffer?
This is like you blaming Nigerians for electing this government.
Let me tell you, how would I blame Nigerians for electing the government? I mean, we had an election. How many Nigerians do we have? We have more than 200.
Before this government came in place,
yes,
these prices were way lower than
so
this.
How has government
from exchange rate to everything?
How has government, tell me, we are all Nigerians, how has government impacted on these prices? The price of gari, the price of rice, the price of all of that.
Are you deliberately saying you do not know that when the president announced the subsidy saying subsidy is gone, which is central to a lot of things here, and then floated the currency, things nosedive?
I am conscious enough, I've been in government, and I'm conscious enough to know some of the causes of the tribulations we are in. For more than 30 years, we have had 4 refineries in a state of comatose. Year in year, government continues to pump in money, and this money goes to down the drain. And we keep, it's like as individuals, if you are earning 100,000 naira a month and you have a family of about 20, that 100,000 cannot, be enough to maintain. So you keep borrowing. For how long do you keep borrowing before things get haywire? The person borrowing you money at a stage, it will become such a situation that you wouldn't even get money to borrow again. We know people who go to the bank, when they borrow and they cannot pay, we know the consequence of it. Their properties are sold off. I have blamed governments over the years for the state of our refineries.
Are you blaming this government?
This government has not contributed to the state of our refineries. What it is doing rather is to ensure that the refineries are brought back to life. I was in the Buhari government for the first time, and I know that we promised that we will revive the refineries. Unfortunately, in the first 4 years, we couldn't revive it. I left government even after government has not been able to.
You also promised 40,000 megawatts of electricity, not even 1,000.
Well, unfortunately, again, these are the things we should look at. So if all of that has happened, do you blame the Tinubu government? The Tinubu government came in to try to revive, and I believe in the seriousness of this government to do things differently. So it's not about government, and if it's about government, constitutionally, we would criticize and wait for 2027 to vote them out, if by then they have not been able to rescue Nigeria. But we cannot continue to look at the current government and say that they are the cause of everything that has happened in the last 30 years.
So what are we supposed to do? We just sit back?
We have a National Assembly. We are all represented in National Assembly. Government is not about the executive alone. There are 3 tiers, there are 3 arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. The responsibility for our well-being is in the hands of both the executive and the legislature. So, because all of us have representatives in the legislature, if we think that government has not been able to live up to our expectation within the last 1 year, of course we put pressure on our legislators to also, put in their best. But you see, taking laws into our hands, like people who want to protest want to do, would worsen the situation in this country.
How is that taking laws into our hands if people go to the street to protest?
Well, they have a right. I'm a lawyer. They have a right to protest insofar as the protests are not violent. People started protesting in Kenya in the name of having, free and fair protest. At the end of the day, what did it turn out to be? The last EndSARS in Lagos, more destruction was to private property.
But you know that people in your party today played very big roles. The images are there for everybody to see.
What role did our people, our party men, play in a destructive manner? It was intellectual, arguments.
So who says this one will not be?
Well, let's wait and see. But, I would use this opportunity to say that every right has a limit. If you think you have a right to protest, you are welcome to protest. But what manner of protest are you going to engage in?
You say if you think. You say if they think.
No, well, that is the motivating factor. They think they have. I concede that to them.
Don't they have a right?
I concede that they have a right. I concede everybody has a right to protest. But in protesting, your rights are limited by my own rights, are limited by other people's rights, and are limited by the law of the land. I urge that whoever wants to protest, if they still feel protest is the solution to the current problems in this country, let them go ahead. I hope that the security forces would ensure that the protests remain as free, as fair, and destructive.
It's not an election, sir. You talk about free and fair.
No,
what they usually think about protests is that it's violence-free. But violence-free. That's basically a peaceful protest.
It's okay.
But I think that people do have their, they are very well entitled to expressing their grievances according to our Constitution.
I concede that, of course.
I'm just a little curious, because it's interesting that, you're appearing a day after, even if my colleague wasn't going to read out, the prices of things in the market, which is really how it concerns all of us. We're seeing what is happening with the CBN having to raise interest rates even further as a result of what is happening with inflation. So it is there for everyone to feel. Even the institutions they seem at a loss on how to deal with this.
Well, like I said earlier, we have a National Assembly which ought to ensure that things are done properly. We don't have
so, it's a good thing that you mentioned the National Assembly. I was actually looking for a particular headline which, was pointing to the National Assembly. But I will come to that shortly, the National Assembly and how it's carried out its job or hasn't carried out its job. But let us face some of the things that you have said. You've been a politician for many years. You've served at almost every level of government. You have been a minister, and you have also admitted that over the years, government has made promises. People have looked forward to the manifestation of these promises, and they have been left with nothing. Take something as simple as, well, maybe it's not that simple, refineries. The fact that this country is blessed with crude oil. We were able to establish a few refineries before. They worked. They're no longer working. You have spoken about how government has spent monies on turnaround maintenance. Oh, it will come on stream in 2019. It will come on stream in 2020. And on the promises go. And at the end of the day, the people are left with nothing. And yet you say, it is Nigerians. It is the fault of. It's not government that is to blame.
Well, of course, even people in government are also Nigerians.
Well, they are. How would you rate the level of sincerity, the level of openness, the level of honesty with which Nigerians are dealt with by those who are supposed to be leading them?
Well, it is unfortunate that we are in Nigeria where a lot of people we have a case of a society or a community of religiosity without godliness. We are all religious people. But how godly are we? And that is the cause of the level of corruption. I believe most of these things are, corruption by people who are supposed to put things right. But my perspective is that, again, I want to emphasize, if it was not necessary for good governance to have a legislature, our constitution would not recommend that we have a legislature. The legislature is supposed to be the mouthpiece of the people because we all contributed to getting them there. If the executive appears to be falling short, we expect the legislature to come in, to intervene, to give proper oversight.
So you are disappointed with the conduct of the legislature so far?
Well, what I'm saying is, if anybody is dissatisfied with what is happening at any level of government, our recourse should be to legislate. Because, this discussion is about protest or not protest. And so to that extent, what I'm saying is, what is the aim of the protest?
Were you disappointed with the legislature too in the last government?
Well, we have to, look at specific issues.
Yeah,
I am in principle telling you that if anybody has any problem with any executive in governance, the pressure should go to the legislature because they are the ones who should provide oversight. So I am not. I have said it. We had the, refiners are supposed to work, they are not working. If you are blaming the executive, we should also blame the legislature. Why should it be the executive alone? When the people to really make laws and to supervise the executive are actually the legislature. So
well, we have seen an undue interest from the executive, and we have been told this is absolutely normal. For the executive, the president to take an interest in who emerges as Senate president, to take an interest in who emerges as speaker, and it doesn't stop there. It's not just for the leadership, but we also see that they have an interest in who emerges as opposition leader. Do you think that is because Nigerians are losing confidence in these institutions? They're deciding to take matters into their own hands?
We must face the reality. We are running party governments. It's not non-party. Executive is not non-party, executive. So the leaders of in every government, the leaders of party in every government will be interested in who becomes the executive, who becomes, leaders of the legislature and all of that. So that is a normal thing in every democratic discourse.
I did ask you if you felt the same about the last legislature.
I have not said that. What I'm saying
because
Nigeria should know where to focus. Yes.
This government, even several officials of this government have said, the last government, 83 trillion naira ways and means. That's what was printed. And so, if you were not disappointed at that time, I wonder how to situate it, because they say that is also largely part of our problems where we are today.
You see, I believe the situation about ways and means and whatever. For instance, if I hear that any government has taken loan anywhere.
No, this is not about loan. Ways and means. The controversy about it. Who approved it? They said they found out at the last minute.
It will be wrong.
They were spending money without approval.
That certainly was corrupt. That certainly
33 trillion.
Was unfortunate. Wow. And we expect that Nigerians, should.
Did you know this when you were in government?
I didn't know. I left government. Remember, I left government almost 6 years ago.
Yeah, this was the same Paris government.
I left government 6 years ago. So, I'm not party. Even if I was in that government, nobody would come to seek my permission. If I was still a minister, no president or nobody would, or central bank would seek for my permission before they, engage in that kind of wastage.
Let's look at this. You've been talking about how the National Assembly and how if people have grievances, the National Assembly is where they should go to. The last assembly, the 9th assembly, was many people dubbed it rubber stamp because, as we're now beginning to see, so many infractions were committed within the executive arm of government, and it was seen that the National Assembly was asleep. We even saw a debate on the floor of the Senate, where it was now, you were there, I was not there, you were there, I was not there. We saw that happen live. Today, what we're seeing, this is the front page of the Daily Times this morning. The Daily Times says, Senate on amendment approval galore. That's the front page of Daily Times. Approved 70,000 minimum. It seems everything the president has taken there. We haven't really seen any debate or any real. I mean, the president has taken how many budgets for amendments? You're asking for extension of 2023 budget, asking for another how many trillion to be added to, you know, the 2024 budget. We haven't seen a rigorous debate. So when you say that the people, they know what it is that they feel, and they believe that if the National Assembly had perhaps taken this up, because ideally, if the people's representative, they should have felt this, and there ought to have been better scrutiny.
If we presume that, like you are trying to establish, that the National Assembly is a rubber stamp, what is the alternative? Is it violence? Is it destructions? Is it, what? It will be...
Why are you so sure that the protest is meant to be destructive?
Well, okay, because there has been a precedent.
This is not the first time we're protesting,
There have been
or Nigerians
a
are protesting.
to the kind of, protest that we have had.
Which precedent?
The NSAS is a very good example, and it's not too,
the NSAS is one out of many protests that have been held in this country.
Let us wait and see, and I hope, even the security forces, they will be on the watch out for any infractions. I'm not against anybody protesting. It's a constitutional right.
Honorable Minister, well, you're not a former Honorable Minister. I want to say it clearly looks like you are. Because you have fears that it's going to be violent.
Well, because, we have been looking at trend of events in this country. And I am saying, if you are doing something, there must be a goal to it.
Did we look at the trend in 2012?
What happened in 2012?
When this Occupy Nigeria protest was going on.
Yes.
Look at all those people who were addressing Nigerians there. Yes. Look at it. They called a rally. Nobody can forget this image. Look at this. This is the same thing they were talking about. When the government at the time wanted to remove fuel subsidies, they were all over the streets, different parts of the country. Lagos was almost, they call it the HQ of the protest.
Whatever protest is coming up within the next 1 week, if they can be as decent as these Occupy Nigeria people.
Even in 2013, President Buhari, Chief Bisi Akonde, even the president, they were all protesting against Anambra governorship election. They marched down to INEC office. They said they needed to protest. The government cannot say, nobody about protest. You have all done it before.
We have all done it before. I am saying, let the standard be the same as what we have done in the past. If it is limited to that, no problem. Everybody can protest.
But let's not forget the issues.
Yes.
The crux of the matter. The cost of living is astronomically high.
We are all affected.
People cannot afford so many.
Are those in government affected? That's a big question. Are those in government? From what we hear, from what we see, we begin to question, what the priority is.
What are your own suggestions? Suggest to government, suggest to Nigeria.
You were elected. All of them were elected.
I'm not elected. I'm not
you're a member of the APC. Does the APC have conversations amongst its members? Does it call the leadership? Because we understand the party is supposed to be bigger than the officials that are elected on its platform. Does it call them to say, look, these are some of the things that the people seem to be upset upset with? The kinds of conversations we're hearing around buying a new private jet,
and I pray that a lot of party leaders from across board are also listening to this. If we have suggestions to make, let us make these suggestions so that people will be guided, whether in the party hierarchy, whether in the National Assembly.
The APC was the one that campaigned.
It doesn't matter.
They campaigned.
Is it only APC that is in government? Is it only APC? Are there no levels of government? Are you exonerating completely people at the state levels? And even at the National Assembly, there are, APC members.
Overarching policies that have caused the current quagmire we're in has been taken at the federal level. True or false?
Is it not about the removal of all subsidy?
You can answer that.
What else? Apart from that, it is that people, a lot of who have taken advantage of. And I am saying over the years, we keep postponing the evil day. For how long can Nigeria continue to borrow money to subsidize one, component of our lives?
Is that a question for the president? Because he's the one who takes that decision.
I mean, he has taken a decision because he felt that Nigeria cannot continue to be borrowing to subsidize.
Honorable Minister,
and my ambition, my aspiration, and my prayer is that we should, as soon as possible, either from the private sector-led refinery or the government one, let us get our refinery.
So while you talk about it, it's interesting that you're saying that how long will we continue to borrow to from what we understand subsidies back. I don't know.
I'm not aware. I don't know what's happening about it.
Is it that you don't? Is it that you don't want to be aware, or you really do not know?
I am an honest person, please.
Yes, the reason I'm asking this
I'm very honest.
Recently, we had the conversation. There was a minimum wage agreement reached by the president with labor leaders, and one of the things that they said, why they agreed to 70,000 naira was that the president told them 70,000 naira or I increase the price of fuel.
Well, if you
insist on your 250,000 naira, which is an indication that somehow the reason why the price of fuel has remained stable in spite of what is happening in the forex market.
That's the way you look at it. I don't have all the facts. I don't have the facts to be able to conclude one way or the other. But what I do know is that over the years, we had been borrowing subsidy. And I mean, it's a very clear thing to understand. If you produce crude oil at, say, 100 naira per liter, because you don't have facilities for refining, you take this overseas. You pay in dollars to transport it overseas to refineries there. You pay in dollars to refine there. You pay in dollars to bring it back. Can the cost of that 1 liter fuel remain 100 naira or even 200 naira? So unless and until we're able to refine locally, and that's why I'm complimenting Dangote, and I urge that everybody should give Dangote refinery all the support so that for once we can stop exporting our crude oil for purpose of refining to bring it back, because it will certainly add to the cost of it. If we don't want to add the cost, then we must subsidize. If to subsidize, you have to.
Chief Shittu, perhaps it's not just. My apologies, sir. Perhaps it's not just Dangote now. I understand that there are a number of others that are also in that tail, Walter Smith, and there are a few other refineries such as that. But you cited something about how people are reacting to all of these things the other time, and it just brought up an issue on my mind. Maybe there is a challenge in the way government is communicating itself to the people or its ideals to people. It took the NLC and a number of other interested parties to say that the federal government shouldn't do anything to clamp down on the protesters, but rather to dialogue with them. And then we just heard the Minister of Information and National Orientation saying yesterday that, look, the president thinks that the protest is unnecessary and all of that. But there hasn't been any significant national orientation in the guise, because it is a reality. People are hungry. Cost of living has risen all over the nation, in every state, every local government. So who is talking to the people? That is a challenge, isn't it? It doesn't look like the federal government is really communicating as opposed to just putting out information.
Well, I'm not in a position to defend the federal government because I'm not in the federal government. I don't know who is communicating. I don't know whose duty is to communicate. But I do know that I am not aware of any, organized protest managers or protest arrangers who could, ask government, for dialogue and all of that. I don't have all the facts, and so it will be difficult for me to defend, the government or, accuse those agitating. But I think also, and like I've always said, we should reach out those, agitating for protest as a preliminary, try to approach our representatives in the National Assembly so that perhaps they could, intercede between the executive of the government and the, protesters.
It does sound a lot, Chief Shittu, that you have actually been defending the federal government, been defending the president here in all of these conversations so far, given everything, that you have said and in response to the questions that my colleagues asked you. That is the basis for this question. The government has not been, okay, maybe I should put it as a question. Do you think that the government has been persuasive enough in the way they have been communicating with Nigerians?
To the best of my knowledge, I am in neither of the two, You see, my supposed defense of the federal government is only to the extent of my knowledge as an educated and intelligent Nigerian. And it is, from whatever knowledge I get from the press, from media, and all of that, and it cannot exceed what I know as a fact. But again, I am saying this. All of us, whether in the press or in the private sector or whatever, we are all represented in the National Assembly. And to that extent, I believe, and perhaps I should also use this opportunity to call on the leadership of the National Assembly to be proactive enough to ask those interested in discussions or dialogue to approach it so that we could have a starting point to ensure that Nigeria, our common patrimony, is sufficiently safeguarded from going down the drain, as it were.
Do you think this protest being planned, being suggested by some in some quarters is justified, given the experiences that many people are having?
I have said it over and over again. I'm as negatively affected by the current socioeconomic situation as any other Nigerian. Notwithstanding the fact that I've been a minister before and so on and so forth. People have always said, but you were a minister. I said, look, do I still get paid even after I've left office as a minister? No. So to the extent that we all want a stable and continuously improving Nigeria, every good idea that we can bring forward, for people in government to listen and to try to engage in, I'm in. You can count me in.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned governors the other time. Look at this information that Mr. Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, put up at some point in response to some of the issues that have been raised. He said, as you can see, August 1 is still a long way away, and he understands that the government is going to address the nation. We're still waiting for that. But he also said this very important thing. It's also important for governors to come out and let the people know what they are doing to address hardship in the country, which nobody is denying. You have been in government at the state level before. What do you think is holding the governors back from addressing the people in their states as opposed to just waiting for the federal government?
Well, it's one of the escapist tendency of many people in government, particularly at the subnational level. Even they, in their private discussions, will say, it's the federal government. They won't, admit to the fact that, they are as, guilty as any other level of government. For instance, we know what has been happening to, local government funds. You see an average local government, for instance, being, giving maybe 300 million naira per month, only for some governors to try and, corner the money and perhaps give out 10, 15 million to local government. But because it is the governors who more often than not nominate or impose, local government chairman. The local government chairman cannot protest, they cannot even, be heard, speaking aloud. So I want to say that both at the national level and at the state level, our legislatures should ensure that their voices are heard, should ensure that they play intermediary roles to bring society and the executive, to a roundtable conference for the purpose of getting, fresh ideas if they, do not have, good ideas to unleash on the society.
mentioned local governments, because I was going to go there. You were Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Oyo State. Now, a good number of people would believe that, just as you said, the governors want to control everything they can as far as local government administrations are concerned. What was the inhibition that attorneys general at the state levels had that prevented them from advising the governors that they were contravening the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria according to the Supreme Court?
Well, more often than not, the relationship between governors and their commissioners generally, Attorney General inclusive, is that of master servant. You know, the governors are the ones who appoint, you know, commissioners, including the Attorney General. And an Attorney General or a commissioner would want to, you know, try to study the, you know, body language of an executive governor before he knows what type of advice to give. You know, but that is unfortunate. But I have always said, if commissioners were, nominated and appointed by governors, legislators at the state level are supposed to have been elected, if indeed they were elected. So, I mean, it's a different ball game. Legislators at the state level, just as at the national level, should remember that they are in the various legislatures as representatives of the local communities, and to that extent should properly and adequately represent, you know, the people in being the spokespersons of the people at the governmental level.
I haven't heard you say anything about any of government's policies, because they keep saying that, look, we are putting in place policies. The president keeps saying, yes, you elected me, I will do this job, I am doing certain things, but the results are completely different. So you don't seem to have any challenges with any of those.
Well, maybe time is, you know, an issue. I am aware, for instance, that at the national level, that a lot of monies are being pumped into agriculture, for instance, both at the national level and in some states. Let me say some states. Niger State, for instance, Gombe State, Bauchi State are doing very wonderful initiatives to bring about mass agricultural production.
But it appears like a drop in the ocean.
Well, because only few states are doing what they are supposed to do. Most states, as of today, are not aware of how much they are pumping.
That is why we keep asking. Your party is the ruling party. You have majority of the governors. You have majority in the National Assembly. Don't you have meetings to see how you can pull everybody and
if there will be meetings,
with them to order?
It's not likely to be a meeting of just every Tom, Dick, and Harry within the party.
So there's been no meeting whatsoever about the economy?
Let me tell you. What I'm saying is we have a national executive of the party. We also have people in the executive. We have people in the legislature. I want to believe that it is those people who are likely to be invited for such meetings to brainstorm and see how far they can go to bring about, genuine ideas, fantastic ideas which will help society. Just a member of the party.
Well, not just a member. You've been Attorney General. You've been Minister.
I was not Attorney General.
You've been Minister. Being a minister means you were appointed by the president to do a job.
Several years ago.
Yeah, that means you're not an ordinary member.
Several years ago.
So how can you say you're an ordinary member?
I mean, a member, to the extent that I'm not an executive of the party who must necessarily be invited to any such meetings.
But you keep asking us for if we have suggestions and things like that.
Of course, they will listen. I mean, if you make suggestions on this platform, everybody will listen to it.
So if we suggest something like, okay, Mr. Governor, you haven't performed, don't contest, or President, don't contest, will they listen to those?
If that is the constitutional requirement, it is the people who will judge.
Do you remember Constitution? If it comes to that
one. I mean, the Constitution gives rights to everybody who wants to contest. But it is for the people to decide whether he's fit.
So the suggestions are conditional. They are clauses.
Look, if I listen to you on the platform like this, I mean, it goes into my brain and keeps. Oh, this suggestion is a fantastic one. If I have opportunity to implement it, I will certainly. utilize it.
I don't know if, I know they say once bitten, twice shy, so I won't ask you if you want to promise if things will be better in the next 3 months.
Well, I am praying.
So,
it is, like I said, it's work in progress. I mean, people in government, particularly I know of our president, he will not be happy that people are suffering. But there is no magic wand to, I mean, like it's often said, Rome was not built in a day. The damage of about 30 years will require time to fix. We need the refineries, all our refineries to work. All the modular refineries, including Dangote's refinery, should also be supported to start work immediately. So
the thing about all of this is, whether the thing work or not, politicians will come again and campaign again with the same promises.
Politicians and Nigerians, the people will decide who to believe and who not to believe and who to vote for.
There you go. Mr. Adebayo Shittu, former Minister of Communications, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for bringing me here.